Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. Happy Monday. Here is your stimulus check update, stimulus package update, and news report for Monday, February the 22nd. In today's video, I will be discussing the status of the third stimulus check, as well as the latest news. President Joe Biden says he will be open to making the $1 trillion stimulus relief bill cheaper for Republicans. Please make sure to watch until the end of this video to learn what you should expect this week from our lawmakers. This coming Friday, I will be giving away another $50 Amazon gift card. To enter the giveaway, all you have to do is subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment below. Earlier today, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told New York Times that President Joe Biden's $1 trillion economic relief plan will help Americans that are struggling, but are not receiving targeted forms of assistance.
Well, for that, another Fox News alert, meanwhile, in Capitol Hill, where the House Budget Committee is putting the finishing touches on President Biden's nearly $2 trillion COVID relief bill. Democrats aiming for a full House vote by the end of the week. We have complete coverage for you. Former White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah will join us in moments. But we begin with Chief Congressional Correspondent Mike Emanuel. He's live on the Hill for us. So, Mike, what are Republicans saying about this so far?
Sandra, good afternoon. It's a nearly 600-page bill, including what some Republicans are calling a long list of liberal priorities. $350 billion for state and local governments, $35 billion for subsidies to pay Obamacare premiums, $30 billion for public transit agencies, and $1 billion plus for socially disadvantaged farmers. A leading House Democrat told me he would like there to be at least some bipartisan support.
Let's come together as Republicans and Democrats and get it done. I totally agree with President Biden. I'd really like to see Republican buy-in on this.
It also includes boosting the federal minimum wage, which leading Republicans note could hurt companies already struggling during the pandemic.
The $15 minimum wage, what does that have to do with COVID relief? Those small businesses are going to have an even harder time coming back when you go to a $15 minimum wage. These things have nothing to do with COVID.
It sounds like that minimum wage hike could get stripped out in the Senate due to the rules there, or perhaps due to a lack of support. But as it stands, it's in the bill being considered by the House this week. Sandra?
Okay, Mike Emanuel on the Hill for us. Mike, thank you. John?
Sandra, thank you. For more on what's included in this massive COVID relief bill, let's bring in former White House Communications Director Alyssa Farah. Alyssa, good to see you today. Let's put up what I thought was an interesting excerpt from a Wall Street Journal editorial about all of this. It said, quote, "No wonder Democrats want to pass all this on a partisan vote. It's a progressive blowout for the ages that does little for the economy, but will finance Democratic interest groups for years. Please don't call it COVID relief." But the Democrats are insisting, hey, you've got to go big. You can't undershoot, because it's more danger to do that than it is to overshoot.
Well, John, great to be with you, and couldn't agree more with the Wall Street Journal editorial there. Keep in mind, just a matter of a few weeks ago, President Biden promised that he wanted to govern on a bipartisan basis. He wanted to be a president for all Americans. Yet he is now trying to ram through the biggest stimulus in history, nearly $2 trillion, without any Republican support at this time. And I would note, because you and I were both at the White House during the Trump administration, we were able to pass 4 previous CARES COVID relief bills with bipartisan support. When you're talking about something of this magnitude, you need to make sure that it has buy-in from both sides. And I'd also note that only about 10% of this relief package actually goes toward public health. This is a liberal wish list that is meant to benefit Democrats and their progressive support in particular states. This is not COVID relief.
This Wall Street Journal op-ed breaks it all down in terms of its spending. Now, obviously, there is some spending for coronavirus and for health, as you pointed out, but there's a lot of spending that's not in this. According to the editorial, all told, the generous definition of COVID-related provisions tallies some $825 billion. The rest of the bill, more than $1 trillion, is a combination of bailouts for Democratic constituencies, expansions of progressive programs, support, and unrelated policy changes. Some of the more controversial progressive wish list items are federal minimum wage of $15 an hour, $270 million in arts and humanities endowments, $200 million for museums and libraries, $50 million in family planning funding, and $112 million for Bay Area rapid transit. There's also $1.5 million for a bridge that connects the United States, New York State, with Canada up near Cornwall, Ontario, not far from where I grew up. I know that that's a Chuck Schumer plum, but what does that have to do with coronavirus?
Oh, nothing. And I would add to this, there's still about $64 billion in congressionally appropriated funding for COVID relief that has yet to be spent by Congress. This is about pushing through Democrat priorities under the guise of COVID relief. Nearly every Republican supports the top lines of it: direct payments to Americans, unemployment insurance extension, and PPP. It's when you tack on these, the massive spending additions in it that have nothing to do with the coronavirus that you're going to lose Republican support.
Alyssa, you mentioned money from the last coronavirus bill that has not yet been spent. That includes about $113 billion for schools. There's a lot of new money for schools in this $1.9 trillion measure, but that money is earmarked to not be spent until 2022 to 2028. After the pandemic, we believe, will be over.
Well, absolutely. And White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki wouldn't even commit to the fact that this additional money for schools would be committed to schools that are actually reopened and actually doing in-person classes. So it raises the question, what even is the need for these billions of dollars in additional school funding if it doesn't even require that you're having in-person education?
Well, it looks like the Democrats are going to try to put this through the House on a partisan basis and then try to do the same thing in the Senate. We'll see, though, if that holds up, because there are a couple of Democrats who have said that they're not particularly fond of this bill. So we'll see how it goes. Alyssa Farah, as always, great to see you. Thanks.
Thanks, John.
Earlier today, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen told the New York Times that President Joe Biden's $1 trillion economic relief plan will help Americans that are struggling, but are not receiving targeted forms of assistance. Janet Yellen has been defending the large price tag of Joe Biden's stimulus package. And under Joe Biden's relief plan, eligible Americans will be receiving $1,400 stimulus checks. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen also stated, "That really helps to make sure the pockets of misery that we know exist out there that aren't touched by more targeted things, that help is provided there as well. I believe we're going to be better off for it, and that is the right thing to do." This week, the House of Representatives will be voting on the $1 trillion economic relief package that is based on Biden's stimulus relief proposal. The legislation would provide stimulus checks of $1,400 per person for individuals with income of up to $75,000 and married couples with income of up to $150,000 per year. The payment amounts would then phase out above those thresholds, and individuals with income above $100,000 and married couples with income above $200,000 would not be eligible for any stimulus check. Janet Yellen also said, "The notion of targeting money to those who need it the most is an important and valid principle, and that Biden's plan provides targeted assistance in the form of expanded unemployment benefits, food aid, and rental assistance." Yellen also noted that there are many struggling Americans that are not receiving targeted forms of assistance. When asked about the tax increases Biden might pursue later in this presidency, Yellen said that Biden is interested in raising the corporate tax rate and closing corporate tax loopholes, and he has pledged to not raise taxes on people making under $400,000 a year. Today, the House Budget Committee will be meeting to approve its version of the stimulus relief bill, which was assembled by the separate committees within that chamber. After that vote, the legislation will head to the Rules Committee and then to the House of Representatives floor to a vote. But when the Senate takes up its own version of the relief bill, the bill will likely change. Currently, the bill includes a $15 federal minimum wage. However, it is unlikely that minimum wage hike will be passed in the stimulus package due to the lack of unanimous support. According to Politico, lawmakers in the Senate have already begun meeting with the chamber's parliamentarian. They are the ones who decide if the federal minimum wage increase can be included under the budget reconciliation rules that require each provision in the legislation to have a significant effect on the federal budget. The House and Senate must reconcile the differences in their respective versions of the legislation before the final version can be sent to Biden's desk. Representative Jason Smith of Missouri is a top Republican on the House Budget Committee. Smith is another Republican that believes Biden's plan is too expensive and who has objected to policies Republicans see as unrelated to the pandemic. Representative Smith tweeted, Instead of helping working class Americans, Democrats want trillions in taxpayer dollars to spend on their radical agenda and use a public health crisis to jam through policies that will actually harm the working class. But many Democratic lawmakers have stated that another stimulus relief bill will be on Biden's desk before March 14th, which is when enhanced federal unemployment benefits will expire. That is less than 3 weeks away. If Democrats do not work fast, over 11 million unemployed Americans will lose their unemployment benefits. And just last week, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer wrote in a letter to colleagues, "We will meet this deadline." So what are your thoughts, everyone? Do you think that Democrats will be able to pass another relief bill before March 14th? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below. I'd greatly appreciate it. Alrighty, everyone, that is the end of the video for this afternoon. I hope you found this video very helpful. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment below for more daily stimulus check updates. And don't forget to enter the $50 Amazon gift card giveaway, which is scheduled for this Friday. All you have to do to enter is subscribe to my channel, like this video, and comment below. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.